The number one use of antibiotics now is in animal feed. So you're feeding animals antibiotics, tons and tons of them across the United States. It's very unfortunate because what you're doing is you're making that antibiotic less and less effective. The more bacteria get exposed to antibiotics, the more resistant they become. The beautiful thing about raw milk is the diversity of beneficial bacteria and other random species of bacteria, which help your body to become more in line with the environment you live in. Remember your biology background, the environment you live in, if you have antibodies for that environment, you don't have a problem. You're healthy. But if you don't, and you're in conflict with it, and you're in conflict with your environment, you can have a challenge getting sick. So raw milk aligns you with your environment, and these bacteria will stimulate a friend or foe conversation in your body. Where if it's a friend, great, join the club, you help us out. If you're a foe, create an antibody to attack you and kill you, but then you have antibodies to deal with it. So it's a really important food, which helps you build an immune system to deal with the environment you live in. Awesome.
All right, I'm gonna pour this in.
Hey, there you go. Pour that sucker.
You said this was really fresh,
Oh yeah, it's 2 days old.
Wow. Yeah. Oh wait, I gotta shake.
Shake it. You're gonna get nothing but cream on the top. It's not homogenized, so that's all it takes.
Yeah, we have a cream top milk that we buy. It's not this brand because they don't sell it, but because raw milk's illegal in Michigan. But we do have a cream top for sale. It's low temp pasteurized.
Yep.
Yeah.
Low and slow without homogenization. That's next best thing.
Yeah. Does that have quite a bit of bacterial, like the beneficial bacteria still, or does the low temp kill it all?
There's no difference. Well, it's all a 5-log kill. Whether you're 145 degrees in 30 minutes, which is low and slow, or whether you're 165 degrees in 20 seconds, or you're 280 degrees for 2 seconds, it's all a 5-log kill. So it's going to destroy the enzymes and bacteria. But I will say the lower the temperature, the better it is on some of the proteins. It's less damaging to them.
Okay.
The higher the temperature, the more damaging to the proteins.
So it is the next best thing that
Yeah,
I can
it
get.
is. Absolutely.
Man, I still wish this was on the shelves.
Well, we do too.
Yeah. What about the Kelowna kefir? Is that the bacteria in there is still pretty good?
Well, the bacteria would not be coming from the milk. It'd be coming from what's added to the milk after the pasteurization. So it's pasteurized, put into a vat, then they add in the cultures to make it a kefir. And that's pretty good stuff. Low and slow plus the addition of maybe 12 or 16 bacteria. I'm not sure what kind of bacteria they add in there. And allow it to culture is probably the best form of pasteurized milk is a cultured milk.
Yeah, when I drank it, it was like I felt like this like sizzling, tingy sensation in my taste buds. Like it's hard to describe. I felt like that was because.
Well, it's acidic.
Okay.
It's got a 3.8, 3.7 pH, so it's acidic. That's where you get that tealing cessation from most dairy products that are fermented.
You switched kind of to like valuing the customer more and like doing things a little bit differently. What made you make that choice? Why not just do it the things that were the way it was?
Back in the late 1990s, when I'd retired from paramedic medicine and we'd taken over the family and farming operations, I didn't want to experience what my neighbors had experienced. And we got neighbors around here. It's kind of a roller coaster. High one year, low the next, and then high and low and high and low. And everybody's chasing money, commodity crop prices are high, everybody chases that commodity crop. And then it's overplanted and the price comes down. And then they rip it out and you do something else. It's really kind of a roller coaster from hell. It really is. I did not want to do that. I want to be very sustainable and I want to have different angles to that sustainability. And my key was organic type growing practices were very important to me, non-GMO. I wanted to connect to people, not a processor. Connecting to people, not a processor. Because all these people that I was dealing with, friends and neighbors, were dealing with processors and brokers, not with people, not with end consumers. And that changes everything. When you connect yourself to people, they ask you different questions. They say, okay, can I come visit you? Do you use Roundup? Do you use antibiotics? Do you use hormones? Is your milk raw? How is it safe? Is it safe? Can you make it this way or that way? Are there GMOs involved? Is your family involved? How do you treat your animals? Those are not questions that processors would ever ask you. So when you design your products for people, you end up having an entirely different set of standards. And that was seminal. That was foundational to what made us be what we are today. World's largest raw milk producer with very, very happy customers.
Yeah. Plus, that's like it just helps everybody. You know, it's like everybody wins in that scenario.
Oh, yeah. And that was in 1998 when we made that decision.
1998.
That was 25 years ago.
Wow. You also do care about the environmental impact, it seems, because you told me you're speaking about like what kind of feed you like to well source it and all that. So do you also have like a love of nature, love of the environment?
I think we have one little spaceship called Earth, and we haven't found another place to go. This is it. And we were born of it. We are not separate of it. We are born of it. First forms of life on Earth were the archaea bacteria in the salt water in the oceans, right? That bacteria is still in our gut today. I mean, you study human genomics and you start to realize that we are part of Earth. Well, if we're part of Earth, we better take good care of her. And that means taking care of everybody on the Earth, animals, the water, the plant life, people, humanity. All those things are on this little spaceship. So I'm a big believer in humanity. I'm a humanitarian. I've been a volunteer pilot for the Flying Doctors of Mercy, going to clinic work in Mexico for 30 years. I believe in working for the next generation's benefit and things being better, not worse. Not exploiting nature, not exploiting other people, not exploiting employees, not exploiting animals, not exploiting the ground, but optimizing all those conditions for a good outcome for everyone. It's been in my blood forever. And so I very much am committed to, Earth and everything on it.
That's awesome that you do that. So, because right now the country, a lot of the agricultural land, the soil is suffering and it's just being overused. And so what kind of things do you do on your property to help the soil health and help with like natural processes and stuff?
We put animals on the soil, just as Mother Nature intended it. And those blueprints are brilliant because when you put animals in the soil, when the animals munching and crunching on a pasture and eating the pasture, they're inoculating the pasture with the bacteria in their mouth. And they're spreading that bacteria between themselves, not just on the earth, but also between the other animals. So it's a community of bacterial sharing, which is super important to the integrity of the earth biome, the soil biome. And then the manure and the urine that the cows put onto the soils contribute to the fertility of the soil, the nitrogen. And so the plant life really thrives. So it's an integrated system. We have an integrated system which incorporates all the valuable assets working in a concert together. And that creates an incredible harmony of vitality in the soil. And that's worked great for us for 25 years. And we encourage other farmers that do raw milk to do the same thing. Because those kinds of harmonious systems don't create bad bacteria. They create good bacteria. So it's the foundation, it's kind of the cradle of food safety, is the conditions you have with your cows on, pastures, dry pack, no antibiotics, lots of forage, lots of grass. Those are foundational. And then you make sure there's plenty of minerals available to your cows. Because one thing you want to make sure is you have a healthy cow if you want to produce healthy milk. It's super important.
Yeah. And so like for non-organic milk, like industrial milk, I'm not asking you to like trash them or anything, but like, so what is the difference like between, are their cows never exposed to grass or like their entire lives?
Well, it's not just about the grass. Organic milk in the United States today has really become part of a tragic car wreck. Remember what J.I. Rodale said back in the 60s. Rodale said, it's not organic to produce organic milk and then pasteurize it. Organic means live. It means vital. It means as nature's blueprint created it, right? Alive. Pasteurization is destructive. It's a death knell. It's a kill it all. It's all the enzymes are gone, the lipase, the proteases, the bacteria that create lactase, all that's gone. The bacteria are dead. It makes it the most allergenic food on earth. I mean, literally, it's the top of the FDA website listing of all the allergenic foods is dairy. That's pasteurized dairy, not raw milk dairy. And so when you think about that, you really have a different kind of concept for what you want to do for people. It transforms you. It really does.
Yeah, it blew my mind in our video chat conversation when you said that raw milk is anti-inflammatory, because I didn't know that. And it's just like this saying that milk causes inflammation. And when you said that it's raw milk is anti-inflammatory, it's like, oh, that's what actual real milk is supposed to do.
And organic milk starts off that way, but it goes to a processor where it's rendered ultra high temperature pasteurized, most of it, not all of it, but most of it, which is 282 degrees in 3 seconds. It gives it a 60 to 90 day shelf life. It's ultra dead. And there's a lot of cheating going on in organics right now, where these big operations in like Aurora in Colorado and the big prairie operations down in Texas, they're not pasturing their cows ever. They might get some pasture when they're dry, when they're not producing milk, but they've cheated the organic rules. And so it's not a level playing field. So the organic operations here in California, we've lost 100 dairies in the last 10 years because the cheap organic milk's being produced in these big mega dairies is satisfying the national organic demand. And you have long shelf life because it's ultra processed. So if you want organic milk, go knock yourself out. It's in every store in the United States. And it's getting cheaper and cheaper because people are really having a hard time selling it. Raw milk produced in organic type environment, now that's a rarity. That's what we're talking about here. We use the organic principles. We are not certified organic on the end product because we buy local, we buy non-GMO, but our pastures and our soils are certified organic. So we kind of have a hybrid between being local and non-GMO and certified organic, and we do it raw. And I think our greatest claim to fame is how we produce raw milk safely. That's the big thing. Raw milk has this dark history back in the 1800s where, yeah, it was really ugly. People were bringing their cows into town from the farm because people were moving to the cities in the 1800s. They brought their cows, but they didn't have clean water anymore. They didn't have any grass anymore. They didn't have sunshine and clean things. They had filthy conditions. They had no flushing toilets. They had tuberculosis. They had brucellosis. They had typhoid fever. They had no way to chill the milk. They had no way to test the milk. It was filthy, and the cows were unhealthy. And that was the milk that killed 30 to 40% of the people that drank it until it started being pasteurized in 1893. Well, that wasn't really pasteurization. It was called parboiling, but the idea was the same. You cooked the heck out of it, right? Well, at the same year, there was also a guy by the name of Dr. Coit, who established the American Association of Medical Milk Commissions, the AAMMC. And in 1893, you could go two ways. You could go pasteurized, Strauss's concept, bringing the parboiler in, and make filthy milk safe because you killed it all, or you started getting your milk from a dairy that's out of town, outside of town, green grass pastures, clean water, and the milk was certified by physicians to be healthy. And that milk was going to the Mayo Clinic to heal people. So raw milk really had a divergent path in the roads in 1893. So when Rodale said it's not organic to produce organic milk and then pasteurize it, I think it really harkens back literally 120 years ago when Coit said, let's have the milk produced in a natural way, have it safe because we cleaned the process, we chilled the milk quickly, all these kinds of things that we do today. And that milk thrived until the 1940s. But then industrial processes kind of took over. It was expensive, it was hard to do, and pasteurization was the name of the game in 1945, 1950. So it kind of died off. The last certified milk was Altadena in Los Angeles, and they went out of business in 1999. Okay. They sold. And we came into business that year. Wow. So we came into a vacuum where nobody had raw milk in California, and we came in saying, we will serve you. Yeah. And we had organic principles in play. Mm-hmm. And pastures, and they didn't have that. And we took some of the principles and we made them even better. Now we're using PCR to test every batch. They didn't ever do that.
What is PCR?
Polymerase chain reaction, which is PCR, which is a system to test for pathogens or any bacteria you want it to target. And so you can get your bacteria back, your test back from our lab in Fresno in about 18 to 20 hours. So you milk the cows, you take a sample of the batch into the lab, they email back to you your counts, what's going on, and the pathogen, make sure they're not there, non-detect. And you've got a certificate of analysis to be able to send that milk into your creamery and make all the products and nobody's ever going to get sick. So really, really cool modern technologies we have married up with the blueprints of life, the blueprints of Mother Nature's fantastic first food of life, which is raw milk. And it's a tremendous gut microbiome rebuilding and feeding food because that's what raw milk is. It's the first food of life. It's what builds an immune system in babies. Yeah.
So since this has so much beneficial bacteria for the human body, what's a way to test like exactly how many species of bacteria are in, say, like this carton?
I wouldn't. It's too hard to do.
Oh, yeah.
The diversity of literally 750 different kinds of bacteria at very, very low levels. You've got lactobacillus, you've got some strep, you've got a little staph, you've got coliforms, you've got everything at super, super low levels. And the bacteria are only part of the story. Everybody says, oh, probiotics. Not really. Bacteria are part of the bigger story. Raw milk has so many different kinds of bioactive elements. You've got alkaline phosphatase, you've got the raw whey protein, you've got xanthine oxidase, you've got lactoferrin, you've got bacteria, you've got all these enzymes like lipase and proteases, and it's this elixir, it's this matrix of something that took 1 million years of evolution to come to existence. And as a result, it's literally endured the pressures of generation by generation, only the best will live, selection and forces of nature to have the optimal food of life so that that baby that's born will have that single source from mom, which will have it thrive in the most susceptible place in life, which is when you're just born. So it builds an immune system in the gut. Remember, 80% of your immune system, your body, comes from your intestines and your gut. Well, raw milk is the most incredible raw milk gut food there is. That's what's intended to be for literally 6 to 8 months. The first food of life is raw milk. So today, when you think about COVID and you think about people having immune system compromised and all kinds of stuff, exercising, sunshine, clean eating, raw milk plays a great part in that because it's such a fantastic rebuilder of a gut microbiome.
Oh yeah, and like, would you hire somebody to come test the specific biological species in there, and they come do the test, they give you the results, or do you like send the milk somewhere for that?
We test for pathogenic bacteria.
Okay.
Pathogenic bacteria are the one bacteria you do not want in the milk, like Listeria monocytogenes, or Campylobacter jejuni, or Salmonella Dublin, or E. coli 015787. You do not want those products in your milk. It's illegal to sell raw milk with those products in the milk in California. So we test for those specific pathogens in our milk every day. And that's done at Food Safety Network in Fresno, which is a big national lab. We will be able to start doing those tests literally next year in our creamery here. The technology's evolved now where it's easy to use, it's not very expensive, it's very accurate, specific, sensitive, to be able to do that on farm, which is going to revolutionize raw milk production everywhere because you'll be able to render it, quote, safe without damaging it. You're rendering it safe by determining what's in there, right? Now, it's not really important to know all the other bacteria because it's kind of a boring study. Every time you do the test, you're going to have something different. And you'll have mostly, some Pseudomonas and this and that as your primary bacteria, along with Lactobacillus and coliforms. But then you're going to see other ones, and those are going to change in the background. The beautiful thing about raw milk is the diversity of beneficial bacteria and other random species of bacteria, which help your body to become more in line with the environment you live in. Yeah. Remember your biology background, the environment you live in, if you have antibodies for that environment, you don't have a problem, you're healthy. But if you don't, and you're in conflict with it, and you're in conflict with your environment, you can have a challenge getting sick. So raw milk aligns you with your environment, and these bacteria will stimulate a friend or foe conversation in your body. Where if it's a friend, great, join the club, you help us out. If you're a foe, create an antibody to attack you and kill you, but then you have antibodies to deal with it. So it's a really important food which helps you build an immune system to deal with the environment you live in.
Oh yeah, because we have microbial communities in our body.
Totally.
Yeah, and people forget that sometimes. So they wash their hands all the time. They spend a lot of time indoors.
Well, how about antibiotics?
Yeah, antibiotics.
And the antibiotics now are starting to fail, and they're not working very well because we've abused them so much. Mm-hmm. And the number one use of antibiotics now is in animal feed. Mm. So you're feeding animals antibiotics, tons and tons of them across the United States. It's very unfortunate because what you're doing is you're making that antibiotic less and less effective. The more bacteria get exposed to antibiotics, the more resistant they become. Yeah. So you have MRSA killing 25,000 people a year. It's insane. And when you need it, it's not there for you because you've abused it to the point where antibiotics create resistant bacteria. So yes, having healthy, vital bacteria colonies in your body and a diversity of them is vital to your immune system function.
MRSA, is that disease where it's like a skin disease? Is that what MRSA?
You can have MRSA anywhere in your body. Okay. Mostly commonly seen on the skin, but methicillin resistant Staph aureus it can be a killer.
Yeah, that I know of it because I watched the podcast, the Lex Friedman podcast, and the guest Paul Rosalie. He shared a photo where he had MRSA, and it caused a lot of like weird blisters on his face. It was really scary. He thought he was gonna die.
Yep, and it made people do. And MRSA is a resistant. It's resistant to antibiotics, and antibiotics have saved a lot of lives. There's no question. It's done great things. It's kept children from losing their hearing, from ear infections, and all kinds of stuff. But guess what? Having a strong immune system does most of that.
Yeah.
And if you didn't use the antibiotics, except for when you really, really need it, they would work better. Yeah. So save your good antibiotics, great, but don't use them very often. Yeah, and hold them in reserves. Yep.
Yeah, you don't want to be reliant on any medicine, right? It's just like preventative thinking is what we need. Like just focus on our natural body's systems and strengthen those systems.
Exactly.
So that leads me to the question, like, there's 8 grams of protein in 1 cup of this milk. So those 8 grams of protein are of a much higher quality than like protein powder, right? Like whey protein powder, because I heard you mention whey protein. What are the inherent qualities of whey protein found like naturally in raw milk versus the powder forms?
You can thank the FDA for dead whey protein. They have mandated that there can be no raw whey protein sold to humans or for animals in the United States. All the cheese plants have this garbage milk that goes into them, and from that they make cheese, which you have the casein becomes the cheese, and the whey protein gets made into protein powders and so on and so forth. But the vital nature, the incredible power of whey proteins comes in its raw form. Its raw form, very, very anti-inflammatory. It stabilizes mast cells, which is the origin of histamines. There's all kinds of European studies showing that whey proteins are really, really powerful in raw form. Unfortunately, when they are annihilated with heat, they're denatured. Now, casein is much more stable under heat than whey protein. Whey proteins become denatured. So when you actually make a protein powder from whey, when there's a lot of protein powders out there, they're all denatured. It's not raw. And it's really unfortunate because if you had raw whey protein, you'd have a really life-giving food. And unfortunately, we don't have that available in the United States yet.
So that protein can be used up by your body better. Like let's say if you're a bodybuilder, you got sore muscles, and you get your protein from raw milk versus whey protein.
100%.
It would build the muscles better.
Not only that, but you have immunological effects. You have all these, raw whey proteins and all the other proteins in raw form serve as functional medicine in your body. There's mRNA. You've heard of mRNA vaccination. Well, the origins of them actually come in raw milk. Wow. Raw milk does 3 things. It directs, mRNA actually does it, the blueprints of life from mom to baby, directs the baby metabolically what to do next. Because the baby's totally confused, going, what do I do? Yeah. The umbilical cord's cut. So it directs, it also nourishes 100%. It also protects. How does it protect? It actually does all kinds of things. Peptides are very functional. Peptides are amino acids and proteins. In their raw form, do all kinds of things to keep pathogens from taking over the body of the baby. So this is a protective, nourishing, and directive food. All the things you want to not have chaos in your body. Yeah. It comes in raw milk. Now, when you pasteurize it, you lose the raw whey protein. There are no raw whey proteins in the United States unless you drink it in raw form.
Okay. And so another question I want to ask is related to the environment. So you have your cows out. When you have your cows out on grass, we talked about this in our video conversation. The carbon sequestration effects. Yeah. So like, how do you measure that in your property? Whether or not your cows are helping to sequester atmospheric carbon onto your land?
There are studies we have not done here. They're done on organic farms. They're done as part of the USDA ag extension work that you can find them online, that show when cows are put on pasture that you increase the carbon holding of the pasture itself, in the ground, the roots. Yeah. And that is a carbon sink, which is really powerful. And it is part of the solution, not part of the problem. So we do that. We do pasturing of our cows here. Not in the summer when it's super hot, but we do it the fall and spring, and also the evening times in the mornings. You'll see cows out on pasture here, where they're depositing the manure on the ground and also sequestering through the root activity of the soil in the soil, so the actual roots of the pasture plants themselves, the grasses, bring that carbon down into the soil, and you can measure it. And over a 10-year period, you maybe double or triple your carbon holding in your pastures by doing that. So I believe cows on pastures does all kinds of great stuff. Increases CLA values in your milk, increases carbon holding in your ground. It also creates a great environment for pathogen-free environment for your cows to lay down on. So pastures are a really cool thing.
Yeah, because like pastures have evolved with large ungulates, like they evolved together, so like they need each other. So like a pasture is not fully healthy without them.
Exactly.
And ungulates are not fully healthy without access to the pasture, so they need each other. And with the Amazon, like they're deforesting the Amazon to start raising cattle and stuff, which is actually bad since nothing sequesters carbon better than Amazonian forest. But in the case of like, if we're talking about industrially raised cattle in America versus pasture raised, the pasture raised option is way better for the environment, because I don't know like what's going on with the industrially raised cows. They're all in feedlots, right? So they're actually probably producing methane and.
Well, it's their lagoon systems.
Okay.
The cows have a bunch of manure they create, and that manure is put into a lagoon, which puts out a lot of gas. We don't have any lagoon. We do not have any lagoons here. The manure is put directly in the pasture, and so we don't have that liquid waste that creates so much methane and issues with off-gassing. And that's why Californians invested so much on these digesters to capture that gas to actually make interesting energy sources. And that's not something we do. We don't qualify because we pasture our cows, but a lot of our neighbors have what's called digesters, which they cover the lagoons with big plastic tarps, and they capture that gas and burn it off and create energy with it.
Wait, a lagoon is what is a lagoon exactly?
Lagoon is a lake.
Oh, okay.
Lagoon.
Lagoon. I thought you said lagoon with the M. But
No,
yeah.
lagoon. All the wastewater and the manure goes into that lagoon, and then they cover it with a tarp,
Okay.
a big plastic tarp, and that tarp captures the gas. And they take that gas, they burn it
I see.
in an engine,
Yeah.
and that engine creates electricity, of course, and that electricity is useful.
So you can burn methane and carbon from
yeah.
the atmosphere and use it as energy, basically.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes. And the carbon off can actually be rejoined back to the ground. There's my brother Eric is actually part of that up in Modesto. It's about 2 hours north of here. They do carbon sequestration through taking the carbon and injecting it 10,000 feet underground. Wow. Makes a limestone, which is a permanent sequestration of carbon.
It makes limestone, you said?
Yep.
Wow.
Or type of limestone.
The carbon, the atmospheric carbon, like solidifies into it?
Yes. When it's injected down into the high temperature environment, there's some technology, and I'm not really familiar with it, and how they actually sequester this carbon permanently underground.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
I'm all for agriculture that doesn't require like a total reshaping of the natural land.
Right.
If you can just like incorporate the agricultural systems into the nature instead of just paving everything away and just setting up rows and rows. So like some examples that we're studying in my master's program for my inquiry action project is shade grown coffee. That's a big one because it preserves biodiversity so much, because when you're doing shade grown coffee, you don't have to deforest anything. You can just kind of start planting your coffee plants within the forest.
Correct.
Yeah, and then all the birds are still there, all the bugs. You'll hear the birds chirping, the bugs flying, and you get to produce coffee. And that's a better quality coffee, shade grown coffee, than the large scale production coffee. So like that's what I like about kind of your system with the cows, where they're all on grass, and like we said, the grasslands and the ungulates, they evolve together. So I just love when more and more grassland is being introduced to ungulates that otherwise would have just been empty grassland. That's just like a really efficient system. I think we got to introduce more and more ungulates on these grasslands that are just like vast open grasslands. Yeah. So,
I'm interested in that, but I'm also interested in that serving humanity. As a paramedic, 13 kids a day die in America from asthma. 13 kids. That's modern medicine in America. Pretty much a dismal failure, and getting worse, not better. Yeah. Did you know that raw milk prevents asthma, decreases it dramatically? The studies in Europe are very profound about that.
Because of what? The beneficial bacteria?
Beneficial bacteria, the biodiversity of the gut. The raw whey protein which is very anti-inflammatory, the alkaline phosphatase, which is very anti-inflammatory, the xanthine oxidase. I mean, there's all these things. The butterfat, which is very anti-inflammatory, which butyrate is very important for the lower gut. All these things are missing in children with asthma. Many of them come born to mothers that didn't breastfeed, or C-section of moms, or lots of antibiotics early. And God knows what happened with super early vaccination in these kids, because it disrupts their immune system, which isn't even developed yet. So they have this hyper reaction to everything around them because they can't deal with it because they're, quote, too clean. The antibiotics, early antibiotics increases, there was a doctor in San Francisco that showed that a child that received around 2 rounds of antibiotics before 2 years of age had a 250% increase in asthma for life. Really? I mean, asthma is caused by antibiotics, I swear to God. The inflammatory system is one of the bigger triggers. So these things I'm saying, by the way, the FDA doesn't like me to say them. Yeah. And you know what? I could care less about them because I care about those kids. I don't care about the FDA because clearly the FDA doesn't care about kids. I do. And that's the humanity coming out of me, because I believe that the FDA and what they're doing with prescribing drugs for everything is actually very destructive, because drugs don't make us healthier. They may take care of a sign or symptom that we may have today, but they don't fix the gut microbiome, which is the origin of the problem. Yeah. So that's why we're big into raw milk and raw butter, raw cream, raw cheese, all these things which are wonderful in a broader, balanced whole food diet. Right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I'm all for human, like serving humanity as well. The reason I keep asking these environmental questions is because my Inquiry Action project, it's all about the environment.
Sure.
But I will get into the humanity stuff as well, and because I could create multiple videos.
Well, you can't help humanity if you don't take care of the environment.
Yeah.
They're one and the same.
Yeah.
So it's super important that you don't forget about the environment when you're taking care of humanity.
Well, what you just said about the, focusing on like the more broader way of like thinking and eating raw milk, drinking raw milk, eating raw cheese, instead of just getting treatments and stuff, that kind of reminds me of the saying that this internet, he's not just an internet person, he's also a yogi, Sadhguru. He said that he's talking about a pharmacy that opened up in a village, and it said on the outside of the pharmacy, "My favorite pharmacy," with like a heart and stuff. And
sure.
He was poking fun at that. He was saying like, you should never have a favorite pharmacy. That shouldn't be like a place you go to regularly. That should only be a place of like emergency, you know?
Correct.
So that kind of sums up what you just said there. Like, that's not something we need a constant supply of. That's just something that's there when it's needed, when our life is threatened.
I think that it's wonderful if you get shot or burned or in a car wreck that you have a trauma center to go to that takes care of you and saves your life.
Yeah.
Profoundly important. Yeah. Those kinds of care technologies have been overused to go into the chronic long-term care. And as a result, now we have a tremendous amount of autoimmune diseases and all kinds of stuff. It's all gut related. We should not be using these acute interventions as chronic treatments. Yeah. They have no place in it. It really doesn't. We should be investing, and we are not investing, in prevention through nutrition. The one thing we failed miserably in America, and you can see the obesity rates. Obesity rates are through the roof. Diabetes through the roof. All of these really bad chronic diseases are gut related. Every one of them. Gut and personal responsibility are missing. Gut microbiome has been neglected because all of our solutions that are given by doctors, most doctors, are symptom relief, signs and symptom relief. They do not take care of the underlying problem. And that's a tragedy, because the underlying problem is eating our lunch in America. In 1960, 6% of our gross national product in America was dedicated to medical care. 6%. Now it's over 20%. Wow. And we're unhealthier than we were in 1960. Much fatter. We have more diabetes, and we have more asthma and more everything. So we are not helping ourselves. And I am a huge proponent and pioneer, and I hope to be a leader in leading people to understand that if you take care of your gut, like Hippocrates said 2,500 years ago, he said, let food be your medicine and medicine be your food, and all disease begins in the gut. Those are quotes from Hippocrates. Wow. They could never be more true than today.
Yeah. Are processors like, are they completely required for you to sell raw milk, or can you be your own processor and not have them? Or
that is a state by state thing. In California, raw milk You can be your own, quote, processor, which means bottler, because you're not really processing anything. You're just putting it into a container. Processing to me has a heavier meaning of homogenizing or pasteurizing or whatever. But you can also be a processor and not process, but actually just bottle or package. And that's what I am. I have my own processing license, but we don't process anything. We keep it cold, we test it, we put it into a bottle, we label it, we sell it. So that's a processor as well. But in California, it's a state-by-state regulation kind of thing. In the state of Washington, Arizona, New Mexico, California, Utah, Idaho, South Carolina, Maine, and Connecticut, and Pennsylvania. Those are the 9 states that allow the retail sale of raw milk. Okay. All the other states, like the state you come from, I think it's Michigan, you have to go to the farm and buy the raw milk, and you have to get it through a cow share or some other kind of ingenious contractual relationship.
Okay. That's awesome. I think Will Harris of White Oak Pastures, I think he also processes his own stuff where he's not dependent on a processor. Actually, I'm sure he does because he mentioned it in the video. So he processes everything and
sure, he makes his own end products.
Yeah, that's awesome. Are you familiar with Zach Bush?
Yes, the doctor.
Mm-hmm. So
he's a big proponent of what we're doing here.
Yeah, because I wanted to talk about him because you said most doctors, implying that there are some doctors that are good and that want to focus on the preventative stuff.
I would say there's not good and bad doctors. I say there's enlightened, smart doctors, and there's unenlightened, uninformed doctors. And all they are is a reflection of their training. So if you got this doctor that graduated from medical school in 1979 or 85 or way before 2000, and it's not being taught to them, all they're doing is reflecting the training that they've received. So I would say it's a bad doctor. I would say totally misinformed and not up to date. And they're a little lazy because they're not bringing themselves to be up to date. I've got some great doctor friends, and I don't consider them bad doctors. I just consider them a reflection of their training.
Reflection of their training.
Yeah, and their training does not include the gut microbiome, by the way.
Yeah. I also have some friends who have recently become doctors. One of them, he graduated from University of Michigan, so highly esteemed university and all that. Mm-hmm. And he is also a reflection of his training. But
exactly.
I don't see him as a bad doctor. So that was a bad word to use.
Sure, that's okay.
He was telling me we met up at a Whole Foods, like it was a coincidence, and we started talking, and he was like, yeah, they don't teach us much about what well-sourced foods. Nope. It's all about
nutrition is literally ignored in medical schools for the most part. Now, DOs, chiropractors, some naturopaths, they might get a lot of nutrition training, and they're the sharpest of them. Zach's one of those guys. He's really been oriented. Yeah, he's very much oriented towards prevention and nutrition and wellness. Yeah. That doesn't make a lot of money for doctors, unfortunately. They make a lot more money seeing 10 patients an hour, 6 minutes at a time, prescribing medications, and boom, 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 and they'll be back next year.
And it's a huge industry.
It's a sickness industry, correct.
So is Paul Saladino also a DO?
No.
Okay.
He's a chiropractor and an internist, I believe.
A what?
Chiropractor? I'm sorry. He's not chiropractor. Oh, he is a psychiatrist. I'm sorry. Oh, yeah. A psychiatrist, and I believe he's an internist. He's got dual certifications.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah.
I may be incorrect on that, but I know that he has some general med, internist, and psychiatry.
Okay. Yeah, because at the end of the day, we're all just trying to be healthy and happy, right? So I think it's good to have these conversations with the different types of doctors that are reflections of different systems.
Sure.
Because at the end of the day, you'll see even those doctors that were not taught the nutrition, they're nodding their heads and saying yeah, it would be better if you ate that stuff.
Well, there's a whole emerging class of doctors that are just pissed off. Mm-hmm. They're saying, I'm sorry, I don't want to do what I'm doing anymore because I don't think I'm helping people. Yeah. They're saying the medical school training I got is pharma, 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 cut it out, pharma, pharma, pharma. Yeah. Not prevention and health and nutrition and making a healthier human being.
And how to not get sick in the first place.
Exactly. Yeah. And they feel like they're this roundaround, and it's an insurance hell because the insurance is actually running what they can or can't do. So they're deeply frustrated. And see doctors leaving medicine or just becoming so numbed by the whole thing. They just do it until they get enough money to retire. It's quite a tragedy when you think about these people who have well-meaning medical careers who are just deeply frustrated.
Yeah, I'm glad we covered that. But one more thing I wanted to ask was, gut health and how it ties to mental health. So I've been hearing a lot more about that.
The gut-brain axis.
Yeah.
The gut-brain axis. Unfortunately, in the United States, we don't have a lot of money to study that. They do have more money in Europe. There has been some pretty good studies in the United States, but remember, your gut creates the neurotransmitters that work in your brain. The serotonin, the dopamine, those neurotransmitters are synthesized in the gut, and they carry to your brain in the blood system. So the gut is 80% of the immune system in your body. Is the gut, the bacteria in your gut, the structures of where the bacteria live in the gut, the mucosal linings inside the intestines are very much the community area. That's the space in which this microbiome lives. And the food that feeds it. Yeah. All those things, and it's interesting, you've got the prebiotics, which are the food that feeds it. You got the probiotics, which is the bacteria, and then you got the postbiotics. What are postbiotics? Well, they are the metabolites, the things that happen after the activity of prebiotic and probiotic. The prebiotics are bacteria, the probiotics are the bacteria eating the prebiotics. They create a bunch of bacterial poop. They create things. Yeah. Those are building blocks for other activities. Yeah. So they're critical to be assembled to make other things happen. So some of these metabolites are critical for health. And we are not concentrating on that, realizing that, after you give chemotherapy or after you give antibiotics or after you give some kind of therapy, about recovery back to normal, recovery back to what should be so you don't get sick again. Yeah. That has got to be the emphasis for medicine. Yes, acute intervention for the problem today, but much more emphasis on that 80% of the immune system of the body and building it better, that you have a better gut. And guess what? Farmers are the ones that benefit there because they're the ones that make whole food. Yeah. A farmer creates something that comes out of the dirt. And the farmer creates raw milk, creates good vegetables, creates meat, creates all these things. And that is really the prebiotics, the food that feeds the probiotics in the gut. Our prebiotics need to come from the dirt, not from a processing plant. Oh, yeah. And they need to be whole food.
Yeah, so the processors are the ones making the processed foods like a bag of Cheetos and stuff.
And the consolidation's been rampant. We're down to 5 or 6 different meat processing plants in America today. It's just so few. There's massive processing plants, and they hold the reins. In COVID, we exposed our weakest link there. We saw how these plants shut down. We didn't have the food. I know that in our product, when we go to the store, we deliver our own trucks. We have 22 of our own delivery trucks that leave our distribution hubs. We go to the store, there was no pasteurized dairy products. They would be all sold out. Yeah. Because when things were shut down, the institutional sales were lost, the school sales were lost, and restaurant sales were lost. They're all closed down. All you had was stores. Yeah. They could not shift their production practices fast enough to supply this new orientation in the marketplace. Instead, the farmers, my friends out here, were dumping milk in their lagoons. They were dumping milk because the processors couldn't take it, because they couldn't adjust quick enough. We delivered our milk, and we stopped making cheese and started bottling milk overnight. We adjusted in literally a few hours. We thrived during that period because we were adaptable and resilient. Our current consolidated food systems are not adaptive, and they're not resilient. And that's a food problem for food security for our country.
Oh yeah, that's why so many people were super scared and started buying apocalypse stuff, gear and stuff.
Yeah.
Gearing up for an apocalypse,
Yeah.
They had some reason to do that because of the food insecurity.
Exactly.
If you go to a grocery store and there's nothing on the shelves, it's how do you feed your family? That's very scary.
You have the toilet paper syndrome.
Yeah.
It's selling out of all the toilet paper. Yeah. You really, unfortunately, humans, many of them, and their leadership especially, don't learn very well from examples of when you have a stress test like COVID happened. You have a stress test. What happened? Let's study it. Let's not do it again. Yeah. They don't want to study it. They don't want to have it to work on preparation so we don't have it again. I'm a big believer in lifelong learning, and you got to learn from mistakes made and adjust so you don't do them again. And unfortunately, our society is more greed oriented than smart orientation towards preventative oriented. And that's just, I think, the human behaviors of how it is in America today, our culture of how we do business.
Yeah, just immediate results is what we value more than the long
Very
term.
reactive. Yep.
Yeah. Did you mention that there's only 5 meat processors?
There's 5 of them. They have multiple plants. But the thing is that if one of them shuts down, you start seeing meat shortages right away. And they control the markets. They control how much they pay for meat. They run the show.
Wendy Babcock of Serendipity Farms, she mentioned JBS to me, and she mentioned I think how they're producing meat from Brazil or something like that.
And unfortunately, they're labeled as American beef.
Yeah, what the heck?
Which is a crime. I've been in Washington, D.C. many times on origin of food. And it's really sad because it's cheating Americans that they don't know where their food comes from. And it's really sad. The COOL Act, the country of origin label, COOL, COOL, has been, it was in law and it got kicked out. Guess who kicked it out? The processors. It's really sad. If it's processed in America but killed in Brazil, you can still call it be American beef. When it's not, it's Brazilian beef or Argentinian beef. So it's really pretty sad for the American farmers who get cheated out of the market representation with the labeling.
Oh, yeah. That's why I feel like it would be best if you were just a private homestead and you were just producing your own food. That's just the best case scenario.
Well, local matters.
Yeah.
And in COVID, we saw this. All the raw milk producers I'm aware of, we know 40 of them that are certified the Raw Milk Institute, which is a cool place to go visit, by the way, rawmilkinstitute.org. All of them thrived during COVID because the stores didn't have food. And they were the local source. They were the regional local source where people could come and have that relationship with local foods. Mm-hmm. So you're absolutely right. We did not, as a country, react very well to COVID and say, what are we going to learn from our mistakes so we don't repeat it again? We're having further consolidation now. We're losing 7% of our dairies every year and moving those dairies to Texas and New Mexico and fewer dairies here in California. And as a result, your food has to travel longer distances. Mm-hmm. And there's more failure in a system which consolidates and the farmers lose power. And so we have a real problem in our country with a culture of not learning from mistakes.
Yeah, and just the long transport distances is just not a very energy efficient system.
It's not very green, is it?
If you just imagine how much energy is saved in fossil fuels of those trucks and everything combined, a lot of energy would be saved. It makes no sense how we've set these systems up. Why, if I go to a grocery store in Michigan, the meat is from Nevada or something, that's
a long ways away.
Yeah, and it's just it's not like Michigan doesn't have cows, but why is it that I gotta eat meat from cows from several states away? Mm-hmm. You could have greatly reduced the transport time, but the current system is really established, right, which makes it difficult to change for the better. Mm-hmm.
The only constant that I'm aware of in the world is change. Mm-hmm. What that means is you have to embrace and love adaptivity and resilience. And the one thing that we have as a challenge as human beings is we don't like to adapt to change. We don't like change, and resilience is kind of tough. So we have to really start embracing in our school systems, in our political systems and everything, to recognize change and adapt to it early. Capitalize on it. Yeah. Some of the change is good, but if we don't, you get dinosaur syndrome. You start dying from the fact that you didn't change. And we don't want to be dinosaurs. We want to thrive in whatever environment we're in.
Yeah. Now I want to ask you about your the fact that you guys don't pasteurize.
Nope.
So does that save you a lot of money? The end cost of this, I was thinking in my head milk that is pasteurized should cost more because they're doing an extra whole step.
It's actually the other way around. Here's the reason why. Okay. Pasteurization solves all the evils. You can throw whatever you want into the milk that's going to be pasteurized. You can get away with it because you don't have to worry about carefully milking your cows. You don't have to worry about how clean the udders are or testing the milk or any of those processes, which are pretty expensive. We have 4 guys out there milking cows. We normally have 1 guy on an automated system, just throwing machines on. So pasteurization, and one of the reasons why it thrived was it's so cheap. Because you could collect milk from 50 different dairies and put it in 1 tank and don't worry about quality and just cook it.
Mixing them, yeah.
And you cook it 3 times, not once. By the way, pasteurization is not one process. It's pasteurize it again, and pasteurize it 3rd time, make it good and dead. So, it's not just 1 time, and maybe we'll have some things living. They want it deader than dead because when it's dead, it has long shelf life. They don't care about your gut life. They care about shelf life. And by the way, your gut's on a shelf.
Yeah.
Your gut's on a shelf.
I noticed that when I bought
it's being treated like a shelf, and it's not, and that's why we've got so many problems.
Oh, yeah. I bought some, completely not even organic milk, right? Because I was in Yosemite, and that's all they had at the visitor center. and I had it in my car. It was super hot. It was there for like two full days, and once I was back home at my family's house in the Bay Area, I was thinking it was bad, but I opened it. It was like the same because it's all those preservatives and.
Well, it's been preserved by rendering everything lifeless.
Yeah.
The enzymes are no longer going to do any digestive work.
Yeah.
The bacteria are no longer there to digest. Everything's rendered stable.
And like you said.
And by the way, that's the same thing that happens in your gut. It's rendered stable, so it doesn't break down. It's hard to digest. Raw milk is easy to digest because it's ready to go. It's got everything in it to digest itself. Remember when a baby drinks milk from a mom, it doesn't have a developed digestive tract. It needs all the things in that product to break down easily in their gut. Pasteurized milk doesn't. It doesn't break down easily at all.
Yeah, and it's like you said, when you choose to pasteurize, you can get away with throwing whatever else in there.
Yep.
So I'm sure that carton of milk I had a lot of stuff in there that probably is not good for the human body, right?
Well, unfortunately, one of the things I learned at the International Milk Genomics Consortium in Cork, Ireland, I just returned this week from attending. I was the only farmer in the room and 120 PhDs there, was that pasteurization causes oxidation. And oxidative stress in the body is not good. Very much an inflammatory process, and it's not good. We're always looking to try to get rid of free radicals, and oxidative stress in the body is really, really not good. I don't want to get into all the things it could cause, but let me tell you, it is associated with some bad stuff. And I think that's why people are shunning pasteurized milk, and that's why it's in a 7% decline, or it's 2% to 10%, depending on which stores you're talking about. I know in the natural food stores, it's declining at 10% per year. We're climbing at 48% per year. So you can see that dollar voting doesn't lie. People are going, nah, not on my watch. I'm not going to eat that stuff. It doesn't taste very good. It's very allergenic. It's hard to digest. It doesn't give me a lot of benefit. So I'm going to go with raw milk, even though it's more expensive. It gives me tremendous benefit. So they can't give this stuff away at $4 a gallon, and we're at $20 or $18 a gallon, and we sell it like crazy. And these other guys can't give it away for $4. So you can tell that there's something going on with dollar voting and moms getting educated and smart.
Yeah, so how did you go about marketing the benefits of raw milk and creating that demand like around this region?
My first 15 years, until about 2015, you took an airplane ride with me today.
Yeah.
I spent a lot of time on my airplane I used to have, flying around the state, taking big ice chests with me to go meet with 10 or 15 people and just talk about raw milk and give presentations, an hour long. I call it share the secret programs. Sometimes I would drive, sometimes I would fly. San Diego, San Francisco, Northern California, Southern California, wherever, you name it, I'd go there for free and bring you free raw milk, and I'd give you a free t-shirt and a hat, and I would talk about raw milk and answer all your questions as a raw milk farmer. In 2015, that all changed. 2017, 18, I started doing fewer and fewer of them. My daughter had a brilliant idea. She said, Dad, and I was very reluctant. I said, sweetie, I don't know if you want to do that. He goes, yeah, let's do it, Dad. Started sending free boxes of product with a nice little card on the top to influencers.
Oh, wow. On which platforms? Like Instagram?
Any platform.
Oh, yeah.
Instagram, Facebook.
Yeah.
If they influence people, we were on it. She sent out like 25 of these boxes a week.
Wow.
Now we have 345 people waiting to get boxes because we don't have enough boxes for them. Wow. We have the Paul Saladinos. Yeah. We have Danica Patrick, the race car driver.
Oh, wow.
Tori Spelling.
Okay. Wait, when did she go about this idea, your daughter? Was this a few years ago?
Like 4 years ago, right before COVID hit. She started sending for free a box, a gift box. We call them influencer boxes. And she sent them out UPS overnight. Expensive, but cheap. Yeah. Because they would open the box online and they, oh, look at this. They talk about, and we selected those that were very positive about nutrition and would be somebody that would have 200,000 or 300,000 or 500,000 or 1 million. Paul's got 1.5 million followers that would listen to their word. And the reason influencers work is because people have lost trust and lost respect for the FDA. Yeah. They're saying, not on my watch, I'm not listening to you anymore. I see what you've done. Yeah, that's good. I'm going to listen to somebody I trust. And so you pick those influencers that people could trust. They're going to tell the truth. They're going to give people honest feedback. That's been a phenomenon. Now our peak exposure for clicking online for exposure is 52 million in 1 week.
What, in Instagram or
all of them altogether? Oh, okay. Collective exposure is 52 million, and that's not because of our work. That's because of our work.
The collaboration.
Thank you. Of all these, maybe she's got 50 influencers that work with us, and 500,000 yourself. You're going to have a few thousand people. So all that together.
Yeah, that was a brilliant idea she came up with the box.
And then the more other influencers saw that person over there doing this, she goes, I want to do it too.
Yeah.
And they lined up. We got 345 people now wanting to be influencers, and we don't have space for them.
And she did a great job at targeting the right niche of people,
Exactly.
right? Yeah. Okay.
So we don't really go buy, we've never bought advertising ever. We do a lot of educational outreach, showing PubMed data on the European studies and this and that. Although the FDA won't allow us to do that, they take down everything any links showing studies to Europe. I think they want to have stupid people. I think they don't want people to realize the studies here show certain evidence.
Yeah.
They are so jealous of sharing of scientific information. It's really quite sad. And it's really sad because we spend money from the NIH, the National Institute of Health, and CDC to actually go out and investigate and find out the truth of things, right? So we can do better. Well, we find that truth and we can find out it's better, and we won't let anybody know about it. I mean, if that's not the biggest calamity, what is?
Oh yeah. So since Paul Saladino has such a large following, did you notice like a jump in your audience after you had collaborated?
Yes.
Okay.
Other influencers saw Paul and said, I want some of that. Because they wanted more followers. And Paul had tremendous following. He has more now than ever. Yeah. He came here to the farm and spent 3 days with us and learned a lot about raw milk. He knew a lot before, but he knows tremendously. Because I gave him all of the studies in Europe so he could look, and he read them all. He's a brilliant guy, by the way.
I know,
really sharp
I'm a
guy.
big fan of his work, his videos.
He's a sharp guy.
Yeah.
I have a lot of respect for him. I really, really think that the influencers online have revolutionized education through example. People say, I want healthy kids that don't have ear infections to go to day school, to daycare, or go to the school. I want healthy this. I want healthy that. I want to look like that. I want to be like that. Start eating like that. And that's where you see, these influencers really taking hold.
Oh yeah. For Paul Saladino, do you think you could like somehow connect me to him? Because I'd love to do just like a video chat even with him. Because I love all the content I've seen, and he's like a legitimately, like he cares about the stuff that he's talking about.
He's passionate.
Yeah.
He's passionate because in his soul, he knows it will make people better and prevent disease. I don't think I can get a hold of him for you. I can't speak to him. I know two people, I'm too deep to get to him. Last night I talked to him for about an hour, but it was my son-in-law, Josh, that actually got him on. He was down in Australia. So the guy is a world traveler, and he's hard to get to. He's super busy. So I don't promise anything on that front.
I just have to work up to his level in audience, and then he'll want to collaborate with me. Okay. Just thought I'd ask anyways, because he's I love his videos where he's like in Costa Rica, and he's got the watermelon juice and the pineapple juice and this juice, and he's like talking about like this is nature's Gatorade, and I love those videos because it's not only informative, it's like encouraging, and like it makes you want to eat healthier. It's like,
and it's true.
Yeah.
It's true. It's ancestral knowledge. It's the fuel that makes us strong.
yeah.
This highly preserved crap, the Gatorades of the world and the Coca-Colas and all that stuff, we should very rarely, if ever, have that stuff in our bodies. It has a deleterious effect to our gut microbiome. And bacteria don't know what to do with it. It's not a prebiotic.
Oh yeah. And to be honest,
It's sugar-based.
yeah, and like Red 40 that Paul Saladino mentions. Yeah. To be honest, it's videos like Paul Saladino, his videos, that have made me make better health decisions. Because before I ran into Paul Saladino's videos, I would, buy a bag of Cheetos once a week or like
Those things are addictive.
Yeah.
They have chemicals in them that say, crave this, the salt and the flavors and stuff. I've been there. I know what you're talking about. It's tough.
It's super addictive for everybody, and but his videos, the way he explains it, like this has Red 40, blah blah blah. He goes through all the facts, and then the next time I'm in the grocery store, I look at that thing and I think of all the things he said, and I don't want to buy it anymore.
Read the ingredient list on that milk right there.
All right. Whole raw milk. That's the end.
Period.
Yeah.
There's maybe a little love there, but that's it. That's nothing. I mean, you read the ingredients on some of these creams and some of these dairy products, it goes on for like days. It's like a paragraph. And 90% of those words you've never heard of, you don't even know what they are. And your body doesn't know what they are either. And people are going for short ingredient lists now. And every word they know what it is. They don't go for these long, hard to pronounce words.
Do you think they're doing that in California or like kind of everywhere?
I think the internet has joined humanity a little bit. We get calls from India, Beirut, Lebanon, South Africa, all over Europe, Great Britain, Denmark, Norway, Sweden, Australia, New Zealand, Japan. We get calls from all over the place. People saying, how do I get your product? I'm sorry, we're local here. How do you develop your farmer near you to get the product to you? This is a local development issue more than anything.
Plus, they'll benefit from like the local biota, the microbial. Yeah,
Yes.
It just helps if everything's local and like the people get it from their county, the area.
We are in the midst of a paradigm shift right now, just the early forms of it. But the more we see the effects of it, the more profoundly driven purpose I am to make sure that it continues to be propelled forward. But it's very, very disruptive. It's incredibly disruptive because it's saying all the processes we've developed in our country aren't right.
Yeah.
And they're causing major problems. The Skittles, the cereals, the Gatorades, the sugar, everything's sugar. The Dorito syndrome, all that stuff, the 7-Eleven diet, are killing us.
Yeah, it is.
And they're killing us slowly through obesity and addiction and autonomic diseases and gut microbiome destruction. To change the paradigm from where we are today to where we should be is a major deal. The way that happens is the next generation becomes enlightened because parents are smart and raise their children better. The influencers say, not on my watch, we're going to go this way, not that way. And you do slowly pull the dollar voting away from those other things over to these things. And these things start saying, it's not working anymore. They got to change to be more like these things. So dollar voting shifts opinion. And the one thing in America that works really well is that capitalism definitely steers people. When it no longer works, they stop it. And some things are stopping whether they like it or not because there's no more dollar voting going for them.
Yeah, that's very interesting because there's so many ways to go about shifting the dollar voting through videos and different strategies. And
the great thing that breaks through everything is emotion.
Yeah,
The real emotion, the loss of a child, the tragedy of some kind of a sequence of events that changed your life or impacted you, and you're literally torn up inside of it. Emotion breaks through so much of this dogma crap. When you hear somebody, they're passionate about what they do, people tend to follow them and want to be more like them.
Yeah, that's why, I think I told you, we have like a freezer full of regeneratively farmed meat and some venison, some elk.
Yeah, sure.
So I'm planning on making some videos where I just talk about like how much I love eating this type of food. Just so like people see like, I love this stuff, I'm passionate about it. So I guess kind of similar to Paul Saladino's style, but like I have a New York strip right now that's frozen, and that cow's been grass-fed its entire life. It's from Serendipity Farms. So that's like so good for the human body compared to,
Good stuff.
Yeah.
Good food.
Oh yeah. And speaking of the ingredient list, like I've seen creamers, coffee creamers, like hazelnut flavored coffee creamers, and the first 3 ingredients were water, sugar, and vegetable oil. Like that's not creamer. There was no dairy product in that ingredient list, but it's calling it creamer.
Sugar and the vegetable oils are highly inflammatory. And they drive your gut microbiome to do the wrong things. They create the wrong kinds of gut bacteria and other things growing in your gut that shouldn't be there. It's just, it's quite sad. Yeast loves sugar, and yeast grows like a crazy, with that.
All right, so another question that I want to ask was about the silage, or is it silage or silage? Silage. And I want to ask about that and like how you find the best quality feed for your cows.
We selectively buy. We grow our own, and we also selectively buy. And we go out and we buy alfalfa, non-Roundup ready, no Roundup ready at all. It's all regular, generic, just good old alfalfa. Silage is basically a whole entire corn plant chopped up and fermented for 90 days, and it's a high energy source for the cows. Cows need energy to produce milk. If they don't have energy, they don't produce milk. Pasture by itself, you have a cow with our current genetics get really skinny. You do not want to have skinny cows. So you have to have pasture for the environment, the kind of CLA and all this kind of thing, but you need to supplement as well, or else you have a really skinny cow. It doesn't happen with beef, by the way, which is interesting, but with cows, it's an extra to produce milk. It's not something it's on their back. You actually take body condition away from them if you don't supplement. So we supplement as well as pasture feed together because an unhealthy cow or a skinny cow is the one that's going to give you a bad bug. They're going to give you a bad bacteria. You want a healthy cow producing moderate amounts of milk. And that's going to be a healthy cow. It's going to last a long time and do everything right.
That's very interesting that the supplementation is required because Will Harris told me the same thing. He said like he doesn't keep like his animals on 100% pasture diet because it's just not enough energy. So he does feed them grain and well-sourced grain. And
Correct.
that's very interesting how you mentioned.
That's exactly correct.
Yeah, yeah. Or else, like, it's just better to do it that way because of the current genetics of the animal.
Even in New Zealand and Australia, where they do a lot of 100% grass feeding, they use a lot of Chilean nitrates down there to get the grasses to grow enough. And they have different genetics. And they're not getting more than 4 or 5 gallons a day max out of the cows. And they can't pasture feed all year long because in the wintertime they don't have the pastures growing. So it's one of those things where you have a balance. You need to balance natural systems to make it all work together. And when you do, you get phenomenal, good, healthy cows and good raw milk.
Oh, yeah. And I noted the fact that you said you look for grain that has not been
Non-GMO.
no glyphosate and none of that.
Yep.
Because glyphosate in their feed will go into their meat and will go into the human body, right? Are there Google Scholar, like, peer-reviewed literature on that? Like,
There's a lot of studies on glyphosate, Roundup. Remember, there was a massive Monsanto Bayer lawsuit, billions of dollars they had to pay because of the link between Roundup and cancer. And so a lot of studies were done related to that. We do not want Roundup used on our crops in any way, shape, or form. Roundup is a very, very it's an antibiotic. It's an antibiotic. And it's used in the gut. It's residual. Will kill off good bacteria in the gut. And it has other pathways it works on too. It's bad news stuff. It's really not good.
does that mean if I eat something that has Roundup glyphosate content in it, and then I drink this, it'll kind of cancel the effects of this because of the residual in my gut?
The problem is with Roundup is that it's stored in the fat, from what I understand, the fat of the body. So when your fat is burned, it comes out. Okay. Many toxins are stored in the fat of your body. I don't know that much about Roundup. I know some, but not that much. Yeah. It is something that's understudied. Yeah. Because who's going to give a grant to study Roundup? Yeah. Industry? No, they want to have it promoted because it's so easy to farm with Roundup. Oh. The problem I got with Roundup may not be the use of Roundup around a valve or something at the end of the field where it's not on the crop. That's a little different. We're talking about spraying Roundup on top of the crop right before you harvest it. Yeah. Because you want the grain to dry to be able to have the harvesters work, and the entire thing's saturated with Roundup. That's insane. That's like saying we want Roundup in the middle of your plate. And that's what's really gone out of control. Back in the 70s and 80s when they first started, they used to round valves, whatever. Okay, whatever. No, that's not what they're doing now. They're spraying the whole freaking crop. And that's what's insane is that it's getting into our food directly.
Yeah. And I looked at your corn as we were driving past it, and you mentioned like how there's like other plants.
There's diversity.
Yeah, that was really awesome to see because usually you look at corn and it's all monoculture.
Super clean, yeah.
Yeah, that was the first time I've actually seen.
Well, that's organically produced, and you'll see that the weeds that are in there are digestible by the cow as well, and they will serve as part of the diversity of nutrients that the cows are getting along with the corn.
So that could be like a whole nother conversation with like replacing monoculture with that type of growing corn because that's not monoculture. That's like
polyculture.
Yeah.
Yeah, diversity, and there's a lot of manure put out there. There's cows. We're serving a different master. We're serving humanity and people, not a processor. Yeah. You know what? When you're a farmer and you don't have to worry about serving people, you do all kinds of things you wouldn't normally otherwise do if you knew you were serving people. Mm-hmm. They serve a processor. That processor sends them a check. They don't know who they're affecting. Yeah. Their practices are completely dissociated with humanity. It's about surviving on the farm with the low paycheck you get. We depend on the goodwill of humanity, people. Yeah. And we will serve them completely different ethos, different morals, ethics. Everything is different when you serve a mom and her kids.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely agree. And I want to take some footage of your corn because of like all the different plants growing at the bottom. That was amazing to see. Yeah. I didn't know that even existed. Like when I think of corn, I just think of like the rows.
You don't see a lot of organic corn. That's some of it.
Yeah, that's awesome. Now I wanted to ask you about the carbon footprint of pasteurization. So you got to heat up milk. So where does the heat come from? Is it like you plugging it into an outlet, electricity, or what? Yeah.
It's a rapid heating of the milk to 165 to 170 degrees. for 15 to 20 seconds, and then it's decreased down to a chilled temperature. So it spikes up, kills everything, not everything, but 5-log kill, inactivates enzymes, including a very important one. That energy, I mean,
Quite a bit of energy, though.
it's kind of part of the mix of the whole thing, because if you think about it, they're also moving the milk. That's a lot of energy in moving the milk, much more energy in that than pasteurization. Pasteurization is actually not that expensive of a process. But when you do all the other things all together, it becomes a pretty significant energy input to do all the movement of the milk, the refrigeration of the milk, all those other things all together. And pasteurization's in the mix. I don't know what percentage it is, but I do know that we don't do it.
Yeah.
We don't do that. We chill the milk and keep it cold. That takes energy too. But us human beings are kind of spoiled. We don't have our own cows in the backyard. We want to be able to go to the store and get everything we want to eat today.
Yeah.
So we do have to invest in distribution trucks. We have to invest in diesel for them. We have to invest in chilling, all those energy things. But I know that the economics of what we're doing are very sustainable in terms of what the value of the end product and what people are getting in their own bodies for health outcomes.
Yeah.
Immeasurable.
So do people that do farmers that produce normal milk, not raw milk, do they not chill?
Oh, they do. They chill.
Do? Okay.
But the standards are different than ours.
Okay.
It can be 2.5 to 3 hours before you get below 45 degrees temperature. We're down below 35 degrees in 2 minutes.
Wow.
So you have a lot more time for growth of everything. It's interesting that the standards for pasteurization does not require testing of pathogens at any time. They solely rely on the kill step. And the bacteria counts, we have to be less than 10 coliforms and less than 15,000 standard plate count in our milk. That milk's got 1,000 standard plate count and less than 2 coliforms. Now, the standards for pasteurization, that dairyman could have 50,000 to 100,000 standard plate counts on a 3 out of 5 basis. So it would be higher than that sometimes. And the coliforms, they're not even counted.
Wow.
So it's not even comparable in terms of what you're doing. The cleanliness standard and commingling of milk from different dairies together, the good, bad, and the ugly.
Yeah.
Who cares? Because you're going to cook it.
Yeah.
And that's why the milk is so low value, is because the farmers aren't getting paid for anything other than just putting milk in that truck as fast as they can, any way they can. The milk prices in California right now are about $15 a hundredweight. They need 22 to 24 to break even. That's why you see in dairies being lost, because they can't make enough money to make it happen.
I see. So is your milk that you produce, is it mixed less? Like less cow's milk is in one carton? Or
Yeah.
Okay.
It comes from one dairy. It comes from 1,200 cows, all known together, managed as one unit.
Okay.
It doesn't have that 1,200 cows plus another 5,000 cows plus another 5,000 cows all together in some huge tank down in creamery with every variable in the world in there that are not managed.
Yeah. So it's
Whole different world.
a high likelihood that there's harmful diseases in there
Oh,
that,
yeah.
that get killed by.
Oh yeah. The studies are very clear. 33% of the time, when they measured 8,000 dairy tanks, 33% of the time there was a pathogenic bacteria that was not considered, good, like Listeria, E. coli. 33. That's 1 in 3.
That's intense.
Yeah.
That's
You will never find a pathogen in our milk, because if you find it, it never gets taken to the creamery, because we find it before it ever gets taken. You'll find a pathogen in our milk 3 times a year,
Okay. Yeah.
and we've identified where it comes from. It's mostly fresh cows, the ones that just gave birth to their calves.
Okay.
Those are the ones that are the hot ones. So for the first 40 days, we don't even put the cows in the milk tank. We make cheese out of the milk, because cheese has its own pasteurization equivalent, which is the aging of cheese for 60 days in salt. That kills most pathogens. We have an internal control for when that happens, let's put it that way.
And also, like, I'm very impressed by how you use iodine, you said, on the udders, and because I didn't know that was done either. That's probably only done by.
Well, that's a practice most everybody does. Nobody on a dairy wants to have a cow that's sick because they can't use that cow for milk anymore. So it's a way of protecting the cow. But we are very meticulous in how we do it. Most of the guys just slap it on and go. We do pre-dip and post-dip, both in the whole milking process. It's very protective of the cow's udders, because that's where safe raw milk comes from. I don't know of any dairies in California that intentionally mismanage a cow. They don't, because they want healthy cows to make lots and lots of milk. But they abuse the cow, because they're milking it 3 times or 4 times a day, sometimes 5 or 6 with robots. They have robotic milking systems. And the cows are really pushed with lots of really high energy feed, And that makes them to a point where they can't reproduce. The cows will not get pregnant again, so they have to use hormones to sink them to get them pregnant, so they can actually have a cow that's 2 or 3 lactations. Cows in California, their average length of life is 4.5 years. Our cows go 10, 12 years, no problem.
Wow. 10, 12 years. And what did you say the average was?
4.5.
4.5, okay.
Which is 2.5, it's 1.5 lactations. A cow gets pregnant at 1 year, gives birth at 2. At 2 years to 3 years is the first lactation. The second lactation is 3 to 4 years. Most cows don't make it through their second lactation.
Because of like their health is bad. And
They're being pushed too hard.
Okay.
It's a race car just being pushed to the limits.
Mm-hmm.
Because the economics require that you make a lot of milk or you go to the hamburger.
Yeah. Will Harris said something like that in his podcast on Joe Rogan. He said like the cows don't live longer than like 4 or 5 years.
Yeah, 4 years.
Wow. They just, even if you don't do anything to them, they'll just like get sick or something.
No. Well, yeah, they'll start having mastitis or they won't get pregnant again. You have to have a pregnant cow to have a calf. The calf actually triggers the milk production. Mm-hmm. So we do artificial insemination here, yeah, but our cows breed back 4, 5, 6 times, no problem, because they're not being pushed like these other cows. We back off on the cows. We let them have a normal, natural life. You saw how chill they were out there. Yeah. These other cows are just racing, push, because the economics, they have to make so much milk to make things break even. The farmers have no control over the value of their milk. Mm-hmm. It's given by the processors, and there's an old quote, it's always cheaper if you can steal it. Yeah. And literally, they're stealing it for lowering the cost of production. We set our own milk price here. We don't have a processor tell us what the price is, and we're very careful when we raise our prices because we realize it's impacting people. Mm-hmm. That dairyman has no ability to do anything about his milk price. He's just told what it is and do or die.
Wow. That's crazy.
It is crazy.
Man. So what is your diet like? You obviously drink this milk. You probably never drink like non-organic milk.
I would not drink pasteurized milk unless I was absolutely starving. Mm-hmm. It would sustain me for a short period of time until I could find some raw milk. I don't like the taste of it. I just haven't drank pasteurized milk in 23 years since we started here.
And it's funny because I never knew what real milk tasted like until like a few months ago. And I tried the Kelowna brand near my house and then tried this. And now the taste of the pasteurized milk is just, I don't like that anymore.
No. Once you've gone to raw milk and you've tasted good raw milk, you generally don't go back.
Yeah, it's just like, it's sad that I grew up not knowing what real milk was, like 20 plus years, of my life. Like I thought that is what milk is, but this is actually what milk is. And the low temp pasteurized milk is better than,
Yes, it does. It's not as burned.
Oh yeah. And I feel better. I feel a lot better. I did feel kind of like slogged down after I drank milk back before I drank good quality milk, but now it's really different. And what about this kind of unrelated, but what kind of like meat do you eat? Is it also very well sourced and everything?
We shop at Whole Foods quite a bit, and so we get beef down there that comes from their sources. A lot of fish, I love shrimp.
Wild caught or farm?
Most of it's wild caught.
Okay.
I'm not. There's some people who really get into nitpicky everything. I'm not as nitpicky. Mm-hmm. I'm super healthy, so I run every day, and I've never had a problem with my health. Raw milk, kefir, butter, cream, all those things are absolutely foundational in my life. But I'm not real picky on the rest of the stuff. I don't want any hormones or antibiotics anywhere in my meat or any of the stuff. So we're very careful that we get something either organic or some kind of sustainable grass-fed or some kind of pasture-fed system on beef. Mm-hmm. And that goes for eggs as well. We want eggs coming from really well-sourced sources.
Pasture raised.
Yes.
We do Vital Farms.
Yeah, good stuff.
Yeah, they got a wide reach.
My favorite is the Alexander Eco Farm.
Okay, that's only sold near the west. Or?
I think it's Western United States. Okay. But they're up in Humboldt County, and they've got just a fantastic egg operation. They're really good stuff.
Okay, awesome. I want to. Wait, what did you say the name of that was?
It's the Alexander Eco Farm.
Alexander Eco Farm.
Yeah, it's the Eco Farm, and they've got a great egg deal going on.
So the last question I wanted to ask you was kind of like advice for me on how to find peer-reviewed literature. Like right now, I'm just using Google Scholar. Mm-hmm. Whenever I'm writing a paper that I want to support my claims, I go straight to Google Scholar and I type in keywords, try to find articles. Do you have any other recommendations?
PubMed. You go into PubMed, just Google PubMed raw milk safety, PubMed raw milk health benefits, PubMed asthma allergies. There's the Gabriella study, which has had a bunch of follow-on. The Parsifal study, all done in the Netherlands and in Germany, LMU, Ludwig Maximus University. I met one of the authors, who's a Dr. Marcus Ege, EGE, met him in Cork, Ireland, and he was talking about all the studies they're doing in Europe on raw milk and how finding profound benefits, especially for children.
Yeah. Okay, awesome. And the last thing I wanted to say to kind of wrap everything up.
And by the way, you can always send me an email, and I'll send you like 80 of them.
Okay, yeah.
I'll bury you in them.
Yeah. So the last thing I wanted to say was just kind of like when we were talking about Yosemite, and I told you like I got that really bad milk from there. It's just so weird that in the national parks, in the visitor centers, you don't even have an option to eat healthy. It's all processed stuff that comes from agriculture that reshapes nature and destroys nature, because agriculture is the number one environmental destructive force.
Yeah, look at the delivery truck that brought that food up there.
Yeah.
It was Cisco Systems.
Okay.
Cisco got the contract. I almost guarantee you. I don't know for sure, but I'm probably sure.
Yeah.
Cisco's going to bring in stuff that's got long shelf life. And it's going to be national brands.
Yeah.
And it's going to be probably ultra high temperature pasteurized milk. It's going to be all the Cisco catalog.
Oh yeah, it was highly processed, like the worst of the worst. And I'm just thinking, like, what a contradiction that is. Like, we're in like a national park,
Eating unnatural foods.
yeah, pristine nature for hundreds of square miles, and then you only eat food that destroys the environment in that area, and it just makes no sense. Because agriculture is the number one destroyer of the environment.
It is.
Because when agriculture displaces nature, that's when it becomes destructive, not other forms of agriculture.
One of the reasons why that's happening, we've really done a disservice of alienating farmers from the consumers. And farmers, if they could connect consumers, most farmers think of consumers as PETA freaks or trespassers or those people you'd never want to see. You know, I completely disagree with that. I think you need to embrace consumers any way you can, educate them, connect to them, love them, because they'll love you back.
Yeah.
Feed those that feed you.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, that was my last question, so
All right.
This was a great conversation.
Good.
Thanks for sharing everything, all the information.
Well, take that milk with you, take the hat with you, take this thing here, take that milk, this water bottle here.
Oh,
if you want to go out to the creamery and find your own, go out to the dairy and find your own, you can drive back there and find it. But I got to go to the house, and my wife's got me stuff doing
Oh, no,
this evening.
I don't need that. If you guys find it.
No, you're fine. You're good.
Just know that I didn't toss that on the ground.
No.
I
No.
forgot it.
It was my pleasure meeting you, and I'm glad we went flying together. That was fun.
Oh, that was incredible. That was just another cherry on top.